Greetings everyone and welcome. As some of you know, the Savage raids have been released, and I have been seeing more and more people talking about the difficulty of content in Dawntrail. So I wanted to make a video talking about some techniques and what kind of mindset helps me learn mechanics and improve at boss fights and the game in general, since it seems that some people are struggling with the new direction that the developers are taking the fights in Dawntrail. I thought it could maybe help anyone that is struggling with learning new mechanics and maybe give them new ideas and things to keep in mind when trying to improve. A lot of these things are subjective and people learn in many different speeds and ways. Now, I am very well aware that I am but a speck of dust compared to most hardcore players that know absolutely everything there is to know about the game and have played it since Yoshi P was still in his mother's womb. So I also encourage anyone to comment down below what has helped them improve, and I'm hoping to start somewhat of a discussion on the topic. So regarding the new difficulty in Dawntrail, a lot of it stems from the new ways that the game is relaying information. Like in the first Arcadian fight, where the platforms break if they get hit twice, and you have to watch out for any platforms that are cracked by either memorizing the order they get hit or to angle your knockback so you don't fall off or land on the cracked platform. Same with the other fights in the Arcadian, they all have a unique mechanic that could be called irregular from what we have previously been used to with Endwalker. But we need to remember that there is a first time for everything, and learning new things can take time, so it's completely okay to fail and not know what to do in the beginning. You just need to get back up and do it again until you get it right. But let's take a look at how exactly you go about that. When being faced with a new mechanic, I can sometimes have a hard time focusing on doing damage while trying to figure out what the boss is doing at the same time, because trying to focus on two things at once is simply too hard for my brain that only knows how to see boss and hit boss. So what I found helps me during those times is to simply stop all my damage and only focus on the mechanic. Now, you don't have to go to the absolute extreme for this and completely stop your GCD. There are also alternatives, like just switching to doing your basic combo that most classes have, or mashing one button while the mechanic is going on so you can use more of your brain power to observe the mechanic and memorize it for the next time you do the fight. As you keep doing it over and over, you will slowly try to improve your damage until it all starts to flow smoothly. For example, when I was doing the another Alo Alo Island Criterion dungeon with some friends, on the second boss there is a mechanic where your character will rotate either 3 or 5 times to the left or right and then start marching in a straight line after rotating. And you had to figure out the correct place to stand and also in what direction you would start marching in. When we were still learning it, I remember the whole room going silent as everyone stopped using abilities on the boss and focused on just thinking, trying to solve the mechanic correctly. Then, by the time we were progging the third boss, most of us were able to keep perfect uptime on the boss and even greed a little bit before getting in position. So prioritizing learning the mechanics over having a perfect rotation could help you clear bosses faster and more effectively, and it's something I do for almost all difficult content that I undertake. Okay, imagine this. You're in a dungeon and a stack marker appears. Everyone gathers in the same spot to take the stack marker, but then you notice that 2 people are missing, and as a result, the stack marker kills everyone, and the 2 remaining players get eliminated later as a result. Now, instead of immediately just blaming the 2 players that didn't get in the stack marker, always first assume that you did something wrong. It might sound stupid because clearly everyone would have just survived if those 2 players got in the stack marker like they were supposed to, instead of living out their solo player fantasy, 1v1ing the boss on the opposite end of the arena. Sure, true. But then you will just simply put all the blame on them and move on without gaining anything from that experience. And is that really what you want? What I want you to do is to look inward and ask yourself the real questions.
It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
Maybe you could have used a mitt on the boss. Maybe if you shielded, you could have survived that. Maybe if you healed everyone to full faster, they would have survived. I'm sure you understand what I'm getting at here. Instead of going to the obvious answer, try to use every wipe to think on what you did and maybe find something that could be improved on. Another benefit of this is that it generally increases morale in the group and builds team spirit. This mainly goes for those watching that are in a static, but having all the blame put on you is not a very good feeling, and speaking up and saying that you could have done this or that better helps shift all the blame from just one person and keeps everyone more motivated going into the next poll. Another thing that I think a lot of people don't do enough of is to sometimes admit that they have no clue what they are supposed to do and ask for help from someone that does. I get that you want to protect what little you have left of your fragile ego, but pretending to know a mechanic that you really don't know how to solve is just going to be a bad time for everyone. So taking the time to talk about it with someone and getting your questions answered is really important if you want to truly understand what your role is in the mechanic. You don't want to be that guy in the party finder that criticizes someone for failing a mechanic and then fails that mechanic on the next poll. Make sure you know what you're doing before you start giving others advice. Something I know some of my friends do that I've never really agreed with is the thing where they just pick one person that knows the fight and stick to them like glue, following them around without trying to actually learn the mechanic for themselves. Now, there are many obvious reasons for why this is a bad idea. First of all, you are not learning the mechanics and are basically just winging it, hoping that everything will be fine. And second of all, not all mechanics can be solved by just following someone, and you're going to have to learn for yourself at some point, and getting into the habit of over-relying on someone just isn't a good idea in the long run. A player that knows how to overcome mechanics by themselves and think independently is always going to have a better time than someone that can't think for themselves and just follows the leader. That said, for the more difficult content like Savages and Ultimates, I feel like it is acceptable and arguably necessary to rely on your teammates. If you are in a static and together in a voice call, you will know that there is usually someone that does callouts to help the group focus better on important parts of the fight. Something that my static group does is to split the callouts between a few people. Usually it's me, the main tank Rowie, and our DPS Paul that are doing the callouts, and to make an example, if I am struggling on a specific mechanic and I'm having a hard time calling it out, but Paul isn't, I will just tell Paul to call out that mechanic so that I can focus better on it and the rest of the group can have good callouts. Then, once everyone has done the mechanic enough times and is comfortable with their rotation and movement, we can try and switch the callouts to just one person to make things more consistent. So in some cases, like I just explained, it can be good to let someone else handle the work if it benefits the team. This touches on another important part of playing in a party with other people, and that is communication. Not to sound like a marriage counselor, but the Final Fantasy community is full of really nice people, and talking to your party and planning things out can really help you get through fights, and at least personally, I think it's way more fun to work together as a team rather than just doing everything alone. This is an MMO after all, and who knows, you might find some friends along the way while you're at it. Lastly, I wanted to say that getting better at anything will always come down to you, and if you are truly willing to put in the effort needed to improve at something you love. I have been playing video games since I was probably 4 years old, and my love for games has always come from the challenge. Starting out not knowing anything, but through the years you play it more, you get better at it, and take on harder and harder challenges, and getting to do that with your friends is even better. Going from dungeons to trials, extremes, and finally Savage, with the ultimate test of skill being ultimate fights. That I haven't even started, God forbid. So, I want to tell you to enjoy the challenge, and to enjoy the journey, and that it's okay to fail over and over at something, because if you keep trying and put in the hard work, truly, nothing will be impossible. And even someone even someone like you can achieve great things if you really try. With that said, tell me what you thought in the comments, and if you want to see more, oh my god. And if you want to see more, subscribe to the channel and give me a like. I will be working on making a new video series around the new Savage content soon enough, so look forward to that. But until then, my friend, farewell. Oh no, there's gonna be a lot of people dying on this. There's gonna be Hada dying, Picto dying. And everybody dying except me because I'm awesome.